It's Friday today, and I thought, why not throw in a little bonus for the week? A little bonus. See, here it is, another video today. Have some spare time? I'll share with you some more insights. I love serving others through God's grace and love. Let me share with you some more insights, some great ideas. I'll start with a story. Stories, everybody loves stories, right? I remember as a kid, I used to sit there glued listening to those amazing stories on cassette. I loved it. And it's never stopped. I love stories. We all love stories. It's just how it is. Now, memory remembers also much better when we hear a story. We remember much better when we hear a story. Many, many years ago, there was a king who ruled in harmony and grace. He was a loving king. And all the people in his empire were kind, gracious, harmonious, and loving. One day, an enemy came along and he kidnapped the king. And he positioned himself on the king's throne now. Took over. King was now in exile. He was kind and loving, because that's all he knew how to do. Carried on doing what he knew how to do best. Kind and loving, and praying that things should improve. He was there with his wife, a former queen. She had a child. And they gave birth to a child. The child was sent off to another place, another land, and he was raised with care and love. Whilst the former king and the queen were out there kidnapped and struggling to get by. The king, the new king sitting on the throne, was quite concerned. What's going to happen here? This king is going to rearm and he's going to take back the throne. He's constantly worried and thinking about it. So you know what I got to do? Got to get rid of him. Got to just kill him. That's it. I'm going to kill him and his wife, king and the queen. Kill them. I'll be done. I won't have to worry any longer. He got his henchmen. They got onto their horses. Got a hold of the king. They killed him. Everything's good now. King felt safe. Everything's great. Sitting on the throne. Nobody had to threaten him. All was great. And he ruled with an iron fist. He ruled with an iron fist. But with time, fear, trepidation started creeping in. Maybe the king's son will catch up with him and kill him. He constantly lived in fear. He didn't know where the son was, so he couldn't get a hold of him. But he constantly lived in fear. What if the son comes along and throws me off the throne and kills me as a means of revenge? After all, that's all he knew how to do was revenge, anger, scarcity, and lack. What's going to happen if? What if? He was constantly in the what if mode. Because that's all he knew was scarcity, lack, deprivation. And that's all he knew. But there's nothing he could do. He had no idea where the former prince was. Meanwhile, the former prince was growing up and he had an idea. He said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm a kind, loving person. That's how I was raised. I'm going to come to the palace. I'm going to get myself a job. And I'll serve the king. And that's what he did. All the while, this king sat on his throne in fear and was constantly having something eat him up inside. One day, he had a dream that the king's son, who was now actually his worker unbeknownst to him, the prince, came along and killed him. He lived constantly in fear of being killed. And one day, he had such a dream. So happens that the former prince was there. And he said, why are you all shaken up, my dear king? Told him about his dream. I'm worried. I don't want the former prince to come along and kill me. The former prince turned to the king and said, it so happens that that's me. I'm not going to kill you. I'm kind. I'm loving. I'm courteous. I'm graceful. I'm forgiving. That's all I know. And it's all my parents know. And that's what they taught me. The moral of the story is, we can come across people in life who are cunning or unkind. They could swindle us. They could do everything which totally reflects to us what they're all about. They could do that to us. They could call us names. They could attach to us labels which have been attached to them in their past. And all the time they live in fear after they swindled us, because they know the law of God, that whatever goes around comes around. Whatever goes around comes around. And they live in a constant fear. What's going to happen? What's going to happen when it comes around to bite me? I'm going to be bitten. I'm going to be thrown off this throne which I've stolen. Constantly living in depravity. Live your life in a place of bliss. Be forgiving. Don't be judgmental towards anybody. Be kind and forgiving. Being kind and forgiving is an act which not many could attain. But its rewards are tenfold. Don't deprive yourself of such great rewards. Don't live in resentment and anger and in a state of revenge towards another, even if they took many, many things away from you. Don't live in that state. Live in a state of bliss, of happiness, of grace and love and prosperity and abundance. You deserve it. What separates the poor from the wealthy? What separates the unhappy people from the happy people? What separates the pessimistic people from the optimistic people? What separates the loving people from the unloving and unkind people? What separates the wretched ones from the happy ones? What separates the ungodly ones from the godly ones? And what separates the good, caring, gracious, light shining, enlightened beings from the dark, unkind, uncaring, and inharmonious beings? What separates them? That feeling of separation. Separation separates them. What do I mean by that? Separation? Just what does that mean, separation? Anybody who is inharmonious and has planted themselves there, has bought real estate in inharmonious territory, or inharmoniousville, if you like, doesn't realize where it comes from. They're separated. They're separated from others. They're separated from themselves. They only live for the moment. They only live to get by. Failures and trials and tribulations, they keep them where they are. Every fail is taken very seriously. They don't bounce back. They're not resilient. They don't have courage. Whereas those who are gracious, those who are loving, those who are kind, they bounce back. If they happen to fall, they bounce back. They always get back up. They don't remain fallen forever. They get back up again. That's what separates the sagacious, happy, wealthy, prosperous, abundant, bountiful beings from the depraved, confused, doubtful, unkind, unloving, and uncaring ones. It's a profound, it's an amazing insight I've come to realize. And obviously it all comes with patience. If you're impatient towards yourself, you're impatient towards others. Anybody who's impatient towards themselves is impatient towards others. Anybody who attaches labels to somebody else is judgmental. God only knows what's going on in their heads. We are a reflection of what we have within. We put out what we put in. I spoke about it yesterday, and I'll repeat it again because it's important to remember. We are only a reflection of what we put in. If we put in junk, you'll get junk out from us. If we put in harmonious, kind, loving, caring thoughts for everybody, with patience, everybody will be on the receiving end of our amazing kindness and grace. Now, if somebody's not used to peace, somebody's not used to love, somebody's not used to being kind, they're not going to be able to appreciate you. Somebody is totally consumed by their own selfish needs. They won't be able to see your light. How can they see your light? They don't live in light. They live in darkness. If you live in darkness, how could you go anywhere out of your territory? It's like living in a cave. Obviously, if you live in a cave, everybody in your cave is exactly like you. And if you meet somebody who lives in light, you'll just have nothing in common with them. You go right back to your little hole, to your cave. It's dark inside, and that's all you know. So why would you feel threatened or believe anything somebody who lives in a cave happens to say to you? You're unkind. You're unloving. You are ungodly. You are abusive. You're a crazy preacher. Nothing to do with you, if you know that not to be you, right? If you know yourself to be one of those labels of this deprived person who happens to live in a hole, who happens to live in a place of darkness, okay, they have real meaning to you if you happen to live in the same hole as they do. But if you don't, if you're constantly in light and you believe and you know that everything emanates from your light, nobody could bring you down. Now, is it easy to get to such a place? How could it be easy if for so many years the voices of others were constantly repeating themselves in your mind? For years, many of us were told and conditioned that the world is a place of lack, is a place of deprivation, is a cruel place. And when COVID-19 is spreading all over, all we have to do is think about negativity and bad. And check the news. It's very important to see the news all the time. Don't do that to yourself. Don't go back there. You could change. So what? If you were brought up with depravity, if you grew up with ingratitude and you were taught that everything's negative and pessimistic, pick yourself up today. You're not bound to anybody's chains. Anybody wants to keep shackles on their hands for life, that's their choice. Whoever wants to remain in shackles for the rest of their life, they could stay there. Anybody wants to live in a cave, live in this hole of darkness and depravity and sadness their entire life, anybody who despises light and enlightened beings, let them do that. Let them live in their hole. Pray for them. Don't judge them. Pray for them. So I wanted to share that amazing insight which I came across, which I've been picking up on in the last few weeks and the last few months. As you know, I've been reading from books now for a very long time, but for 4 months now, I've been reading from books for a very long time every single day. 10 books a day, a few pages in 10 books a day does start having an impact on you. And one of those impacts is that I want to share, I want to help others to grow with me. If you want to come along with me, we could do it. I'm writing a book. I'm almost up to page 300. It's exciting. I don't know where this is going to go. Part of me is like, no, I don't want an editor to look at this stuff. I want to put it out there, my own writing. I'll see. I'll see where that all goes. I'm not sure yet where that's going to go. That's my amazing message today. A bonus for this week. This week's Torah portion, biblical portion, which Jews from around the world are going to be reading tomorrow, is the Torah portion called Ki Tetzeh Lamechama. When you go out in war with those negative habits, those negative traits, arm yourself, be on guard, and all will turn out well. Be the light you know you deserve. Shine the light that emanates through you. And don't fall into anybody's hole, in anybody's cave. And even if they don't recognize you and they see you as an alien, as a non-existent alien, nothing to do with you. Remember that. I love you, and I look forward to seeing you again next week in my next week's amazing Thursday night video. And thanks so much for sharing your great insights and great tips, which so many of you have shared in the comment section down below. Your feedback has helped me. I'm very grateful for it. Suzanne, Beth, Mike. Mike leaves his amazing comments and great feedback every single week. I'm humbled. Thank you, Mike. I'm ever so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you all for sharing your time with me. I'm grateful, I'm humbled, and I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.